Chapter 29 The Little Succubus Princess. Seen now in a castle where the Queen of Succubus lived, there was a little girl who seemed to be looking for someone. "Mama, Mama, where are you?" shouted the little girl. The little girl had silver-haired features, had noble-style clothes, and was holding a doll. "Mama, where are you?" the girl shouted. "Princess Lulu." Suddenly there was a guard holding the little girl. "What are you doing?" asked the guard. "I'm looking for Mama," replied the little girl. "Evelyn is out of the castle, so Lulu should not go out first," said the guard, warning Lulu. "I understand," said Lulu with a cheerful smile. "Then you should have lunch first," said the guard. "All right." The little girl then sat in one of the chairs next to the table and waited for the food to come soon. The servant then brought some food for their princess, who seemed hungry. "Food!" cried Lulu. The ministers then put the food in front of the princess to be eaten immediately. Lulu then ate the food in front of her quickly. Although a little greedy, Lulu ate without causing a mess. The servants only saw their princess with a smile. They didn't feel disgusted at all, they even felt comforted. "Lulu, please slow down, you'll choke," one of the servants warns. "It's okay," said Lulu, feeling it was okay. Soon the food on the table went out to be eaten by Lulu. The waiters then cleaned the plates and dirt on the table. In fact, Lulu is feeling full now. "I'm home," there was a voice. An adult woman sounded outside the castle. Lulu, who knew the voice, then looked happy and then got out of her chair and ran towards the outside happily. Outside, there are some guards who are welcoming a woman. The woman is not alone, there is a younger woman behind her. "Miss Evelyn's come home," shouted one of the guards to warn the other guards. Evelyn just smiled when she saw the guards seemed happy when she came home. Visible behind Evelyn there was Lily, who seemed nervous because she had escaped from the palace. "Lily, let's get in," said Evelyn. Lily then nodded, understanding with her queen. Evelyn and Lily then walked into the castle. "Mama," a voice came from the front of Evelyn and Lily. Evelyn smiled, seeing who was running towards her with great enthusiasm. Lily was shocked and relieved to see that Evelyn's daughter was in good health. "Mama." Lulu then hugged her mother very excitedly. Evelyn then returned the hug from her daughter with great affection. Lulu looked very happy to see her mother back home. "I'm home, Lulu," said Evelyn. "Welcome," said Lulu. Lily, who saw both mother and child, just smiled. Lily remembered when she was a child with her mother. Lily was very happy when her mother had come home from work. Lily happily always hugs her mother, then she always prepares dinner. "Lily." Lily was shocked to hear the voice calling her. Lulu then hugged Lily with great pleasure too. Lily was surprised to see Lulu suddenly hug her. "Finally you go home, Lily Oni-chan," said Lulu while hugging Lily. Lily then smiled at Lulu, who seemed to miss her. Lily then returned to Lulu's arms. "I am home, Lulu," Lily said. Evelyn smiled as Lily and Lulu looked very happy. They were like sisters and brothers who had a very close relationship. "Well, let's get in," Evelyn said. Lily and Lulu then nodded, understanding. Lulu then held Lily's hand. Lily just smiled kindly to see Lulu. They then entered the castle while the guards returned to their task of guarding. Evelyn, Lily and Lulu were already inside the castle. Lily still remembered what was inside the castle. "Well, Lily, let's just bathe first," Evelyn said. "Mandy, why?" Lily asked. "Didn't you look so dirty?" said Evelyn. Lily then saw herself, indeed looking dirty because of the fight with Rex. "Well, let's take a bath," said Evelyn. "Mandy," Lulu shouted as well. Lily just sighed to see her queen and Lulu looking so excited about bathing. Lily then remembered something about her queen. She remembered that her queen was a pervert, unlike her who hated men but still teased them, while her queen was a super pervert. "Damn, I forgot that," Lily said, wearing a pale face. In the bathroom, Evelyn, Lily and Lulu are now bathing now, their bodies already wet with running water. "Fresh," said Evelyn. Lulu seemed to be soaking in the bath while playing her rubber duck toy, while Lily beside Lulu soaked too. "Come on, duck, swim faster," said Lulu while playing her rubber duck. Lily just smiled when she saw the child. The queen seemed so happy to play the rubber duck. "So Lily, have you done that?" said Evelyn. Lily then was surprised to hear the words of Evelyn, instantly questioning her relationship in sexual matters. "I told you, I will not do that," Lily said. Evelyn smiled at Lily's answer, who immediately answered it very firmly. Evelyn then stood up and joined Lily and Lulu to bathe. "Are you sure you continue to hate men?" Evelyn asked. Lily was silent to hear the words of Evelyn, Lily then pensive as she thought about the question from her. Evelyn smiled at seeing Lily look confused to answer her. So you've fallen in love with a man? Evelyn asked. Lily was shocked to hear the words of Evelyn, who suddenly said she had fallen in love with a man. What do you mean, Master Evelyn? Lily asked nervously. Evelyn then held back, laughing at Lily's reaction that suddenly her face looked red. So who is the guy? Asked Evelyn directly. I have not fallen in love, Master Evelyn, Lily shouted angrily plus annoyed. Lulu is now closing her ears that cannot accommodate Lily's voice. Evelyn then held her laughter again to see Lily. Sorry, Evelyn said apologetically. What about yourself? You don't have a husband, even though you have a child, Lily asked. Evelyn then looked up with a smile after hearing Lily's question. Lily was confused with her queen, who suddenly seemed to be silent. Did she just say something presumptuous? Excuse my honor, I do not mean it, said Lily, apologizing. It's okay, Lily, I understand what you mean, said Evelyn. Evelyn then stroked Lulu's head, who was playing with a duck doll. Lily, do you want to hear where I came from? Asked Evelyn. Lily was shocked to hear her words. Lily was keen to know who the king was. Of course I do, Master Evelyn, Lily said with enthusiasm. Well, I'll tell you who I really am. I was born to a noble family of succubus in the underworld, Evelyn said, explaining. Underworld? Isn't that the place of the devils? Said Lily, surprised to hear it. Right, when my family arrived in the underworld, we were not accepted by the devils. The devils tried to drive out my family, but there were some noble demon families who accepted us, said Evelyn. Noble devil families? Which one was it? Lily asked. Gremory, Leviathan and several other families, said Evelyn. Lily then was surprised to hear Gremory's name. She remembered that she had heard that name when she was at school. They received us, so we finally stayed in the underworld, said Evelyn. Wait a minute, for Evelyn, why did your family go to the underworld? Lily asked. My family was expelled from their homeland, said Evelyn. Dismissed? By whom? Asked Lily again. By the gods, said Evelyn. Lily was shocked to hear that. She did not think that the family of the queen was expelled by the gods. Lily then became angry with the gods for making her family's family suffer. And after that my family stayed in the underworld, said Evelyn. Lily nodded understanding. Lulu looked cool playing with her rubber duck and not listening to the story from her mother. After a while, one of the wives gave birth, said Evelyn. One of the wives? What do you mean? Lily asked. Oh yes, I forgot, my father had 5 wives, said Evelyn. 5 wives, Lily was surprised to hear that. Right, my father had 5 wives, my mother is the 4th wife. After that all the wives gave birth to their children. The first wife had 2 daughters, the second wife had 1 daughter. The third wife gave birth to 3 daughters, mother gave birth to 2 children, one of whom was me, and the 5th wife had 2 daughters, said Evelyn, explaining her family. So they are all women. Well, it seems you are very happy because you have many sisters, Lily said. Evelyn then looked moody when Lily said she was happy. Lily was confused to see her queen suddenly gloomy. What is wrong, Queen Evelyn? Lily asked. Actually, the family was happy, where I can play with my sisters, but that changed during the throne election, said Evelyn. Throne? Lily confused. Right, my father passed away and left the throne as king, said Evelyn. King? Lily was confused. Right, actually after living long enough in the underworld, the family is increasingly known by the devils, then my family finally becomes one of the important families in the underworld, said Evelyn. It's not impossible because Evelyn's alike is strong, surely your family must be strong, Lily said. Evelyn just smiled at the words from Lily. All of my older siblings made up the throne, including their mothers, and also my mother, said Evelyn. Your mother too? Lily was shocked. My mother said that if I had to take the throne, she said I should not let my other sister get the throne, but I refused, so my mother then chose my sister to get the throne. Evelyn looked sad. Lily just paused to hear the sad story of her queen. She didn't expect her queen to have a dark childhood. After that my sisters then looked for a man to make him king so that he would be the leader in my family and my sister could become queen, Evelyn continued explaining. Lulu looks confused with her mother, who seems sad. Lily seems to understand now. Many noble devils wanted to propose to me, but I refused all their applications. One of my sisters managed to seize the throne, but the conflict was not over. My other sisters continued to want to seize the throne regardless of their ties as sisters. Evelyn remembers her sisters. Evelyn then remembered when she was little with her sister playing together so happily. So what did you do? Lily asked. I then decided to leave my family, said Evelyn. Lily understood with her queen who decided to leave the family. I decided to run away and get to this land. I then found some residents here and they all accepted me. I decided to stay here, said Evelyn. Looking at the window beside her, looking at the view of her kingdom. I then led this area and then I managed to make the kingdom. Lily was amazed to hear her life story. She was amazed at the person she admired. I became queen here. Then are you married? Lily asked. No, said Evelyn. What? Lily was surprised by the words of Ratunaya. I wasn't married, at that time I hadn't found the person I loved, said Evelyn. Evelyn then looked at Lulu who was now looking at her. Evelyn then stroked Lulu's head gently. One day I was fighting against one of the fallen goddesses, Tiamat, said Evelyn. Tiamat, you mean the dragon goddess? Lily was shocked. Yes, said Evelyn. Lily did not think that her queen would fight one of the high races. Lulu only saw their conversation and did not understand for her age. We fought with each other, it stood as a draw, said Evelyn, showing off her epic fight to Lily who had been amazed. When I fought with her for quite a while, suddenly there was something strange about where we fought. I felt that I suddenly crashed somehow and finally I arrived at a place that was unfamiliar to me, said Evelyn. A foreign place, Lily was confused. It's true, the place was overgrown with lots of green plants and trees and there are also some wild animals there, said Evelyn. What are you going to do? Lily asked. I decided to get around in that area. You could say that the place was very fertile. After I traveled around long enough I decided to take a bath in a river, said Evelyn. Lily then thought that there was a man who peeked in there even though she didn't know what would happen in the future. I bathed in that place quite pleasantly because fresh water. When I took a bath I met the person, Lulu's father, said Evelyn, who was now stroking Lulu's head. Lulu looked happy when her mother was stroking her head and telling her about her father. So is that person an angel race? Devil? God? Elf? Or another high race? Asked Lily curiously. Evelyn just laughed at Lily who was curious, just laughing. Lulu also laughed, feeling funny seeing Lily's reaction. He is a man, answered Evelyn. Lily then felt her enthusiasm disappear when she heard the name of a man. She was not too interested in humans, they were beings who were said to be the lowest chain in this world. Just a weakly human, answered Lily weakly. Are you demeaning humans? Asked Evelyn. Of course, they are the lowest race, they are physically weak, they also cannot use magic. I am confused by the creator because they have created them, Lily said arrogantly. Evelyn just smiled with Lily's thought that was so normal for her because she was a race that could be considered high. Lily, we can't demean humans now. Honestly, I also didn't think much of them, but times have changed now, said Evelyn. Lily was shocked to hear the words of Evelyn saying that she had also humiliated man. They can't use magic, but have you ever heard that humans have the power called ambition? Said Evelyn. What is the ambition? Lily asked. I don't know, but it was written on a stone called a poneglyph, said Evelyn. Lily was shocked to hear her. Did the creator tell them that man is actually a powerful race? Honestly, I don't really understand, but that's what's written, Evelyn continued. Then after meeting with the man, what did you do? Asked Lily. We did that, Evelyn said, teasing Lily. Lily's cheek then flushed to hear that Evelyn immediately did that with a man. Lily did not know why she suddenly squeezed. We did it very long because he turned out to have large stamina, said Evelyn, still teasing Lily. Lily's cheeks are still squeezing her. Lulu looks confused by the words from her mother. I was 27 at the time, Evelyn then looked towards Lulu. Then what did you do then? Lily asked. I then intend to take that person to the kingdom and make him king, but he is still very small and has a family, so I could not take him, said Evelyn with a disappointed face. What? Are you not too careless to be a human being your king? Wait, do you mean still small? Asked Lily. You must understand what I mean later, and I believe that he will become a very great king, said Evelyn, remembering that person. After that I returned to the kingdom with my magic and a week later I became pregnant with Lulu, said Evelyn. Lily was amazed by the tenderness of her, who believed in a strong belief from someone. I thought that someday I would meet him again, said Evelyn confidently. Lily only nodded understanding with her queen. They then returned to bathe together. Suddenly Evelyn then held Lily's breast from behind. Kai, Evelyn, Lily was confused. It turns out that your breasts are getting bigger and bigger, Lily, said Evelyn. Stop, Evelyn, cried Lily. Lulu just laughed at the scene. X. In the occult club. So that's the story, said Zoro, explaining. In the occult research, there was Rias and the peerages and Sona with the peerages too. Do you understand now? Zoro asked. Yes, we all understand, so you are pirate friends and Luffy is your captain, said Sona. Yes, surely you all don't believe it, said Zoro. It's all so hard to believe that this fool is your captain, said Ria pointing at Luffy. All of them then realized that Luffy had fallen asleep when Zoro told the story of the two of them, Rias, Sona and their peerage, then sweat drops seeing Luffy sleeping very fast. So far he's been sleeping, shouted the Sona peerage. Rias and peerage just smiled at this, they understood that Luffy would fall asleep because he had fought enough so that he would be very tired. Well, it seems like we have to go home, said Rias. It seems like that. Sona then looked at Zoro. Zoro, you come with me first, said Sona. Zoro looks upset because suddenly Sona orders him. He can help but he doesn't like being ordered by someone except Luffy. Take it easy, I only have business with you, said Sona. Zoro then sighed resignedly. Zoro then stood up to leave. Zoro saw Luffy who seemed to be sleeping soundly. Well, Rias, we leave first, said Sona. Tsubaki then released the teleport magic to immediately return to their home. Sona, Zoro and his peerage then disappeared with the teleport magic. Well, we better go home too, said Rias. Master Luffy, suddenly the door opened. Rias and peerage were shocked to see the door suddenly opened by a woman and there was another woman behind her. Master Luffy, are you okay? The woman shouted. Rias knows who the woman is. Akino, Kiba, and Kaneko then prepare to fight the woman who seems to be their enemy. Take it easy, she's not an enemy anymore, Rias said, preventing some of her peerages from calling on her. The woman was Rainer and Kalauerner, who seemed really worried about seeing Luffy asleep. Rainer and Kalauerner then approached Luffy. Master Luffy. Rainer and Kalauerner then saw Luffy. The two angels then felt relieved to see their master all right. The two angels fell down and looked towards Rias. So what happened? They asked. I'll explain, we should take Luffy home now, said Rias. Rias then faced the peerage. All of you can go home, said Rias. Rias's peerage then nods understanding except Akino, who still sees Luffy being carried by Rainer. Rainer doesn't feel heavy because Luffy seems very light, plus he is a little shorter than her. Okay, let's go home, said Rias. Rias' peerage then goes first. Rias, Rainer, Kalauerner, Luffy and Zenovia. Rias then looks at Zenovia. Where is Irina? Zenovia then suddenly asked Rias. Irina? What do you mean? The girl Master Luffy? Asked Rainer. Yes, that's her, said Zenovia. She is at Ayano's house, said Kalauerner. Okay, I'll be there, said Zenovia. Rainer and Kalauerner were shocked to hear the words from Zenovia, who suddenly wanted Ayano's home. I don't know, but I'm not sure if Ayano would be happy, said Rainer. Never mind, surely Ayano must understand, said Rias. Okay, then let's invite Kalauerner. Zenovia then goes with Rias, Rainer and Kalauerner. Skip time. At Ayano's house it was seen that she was at peace now. Ayano seemed to wake up early. Last night there was an incident that was unexpected by Ayano. Suddenly Rainer and Kalauerner brought a girl to her house last night. Why are they always making trouble? And why I have to take care of the woman, said Ayano, who was now taking a shower. Ayano remembers that Rainer said that Luffy was doing something now. She hoped that Luffy would be fine. Ayano then finished taking a shower and was putting on her clothes. Ayano then decided to see the girl's condition in Luffy's room. Ayano put the girl in Luffy's room. I'd better see the girl's condition, said Ayano, who then headed to Luffy's room. Ayano then remembers something. Luffy should have gone home now. Ayano then suspected that Luffy would sleep with the girl. I will not let that happen, said Ayano while speeding up her steps. Ayano then arrived at Luffy's room. Ayano quickly opened the door of the room and looked inside. In Luffy's room there were some people sleeping. Ayano thought that it was Luffy, Rias, the weird girl last night and the two fallen angels. Ayano couldn't see them because they were covered by blankets. Ayano then approached Luffy's mattress to open the blanket to wake them up and scold him. Ayano then opened the blanket. Luffy, come on. Ayano had not finished saying it because he saw that there was something odd about what he saw. Looks like there are more people sleeping on the mattress more than Ayano imagined. Looks like Luffy is hugged by Rias on his right and his left side is Rainer and behind Luffy is Kalorner. On Luffy's chest there is another girl with yellow ribbon on her hair. There was also a blue-haired girl sleeping also on Luffy's chest, and the last girl who last night who was taken by Rainer was sleeping under Luffy holding Luffy's thighs, and they were all naked, including Luffy. Ayano didn't know what to say. Ayano then felt really angry with what she saw. Dare they do something perverted in her house? Ayano then sighed to shout to wake them up. Have a sense of decency, people, shouted Ayano. Rias and the women woke up to hear screaming from Ayano. Rias and the girls then rubbed their eyes to see who was screaming. Oh, Ayano, said Rainer, looking at Ayano. Why are you screaming in the morning like this? Ayano, Rias asked. Ayano then looked at the two new girls on Luffy's bed. Who are those two? Asked Ayano while heading towards the two girls. Rias then sees the girl mentioned by Ayano. She knows that Zenobia is here, but Rias then realizes there is another woman here. Rias then knows who she is. Akino, what are you doing here? Rias asked, surprised to see Akino. Akino just smiles to see her, shocked looking at her. Luffy looks still sleeping soundly. Ayano then felt annoyed with Luffy because he didn't wake up yet. Luffy, let's get up, Ayano said, pinching Luffy's cheek, but Luffy's cheeks instead stretched like rubber. I forgot that he is a rubber man, said Ayano consciously. Ayano then confused to wake up. Ayano then had the idea to wake Luffy. Ayano then approached his face to Luffy's ear trying to whisper something. Rias and the other girl just felt confused about what Ayano whispered. Luffy then suddenly woke up and then stood up straight. Ayano then shocked because she realized that Luffy didn't wear any clothes. Breakfast, where is the breakfast? Luffy shouted. Ayano is now covering her face not to see Luffy who is naked. Rias and the other girl then feel their cheeks flush all because they see Luffy's body. Where's the food? Luffy asked Ayano who was covering her face. Wear your clothes first. Ayano then hit Luffy's head hard. 15 minutes later. Well, when it comes to explaining what really happened, asked Ayano. Now that all of the residents of Ayano's house are at a place to eat for breakfast, Luffy is holding his head, which looks like a lump on his head. Well, we'll explain it, said Rias. Rias then explained about last night, explained about their new enemy and the appearance of someone who helped them, and finally they won against that person. So that's it, Ayano then understood. Where is the food? Luffy suddenly shouted. Ayano then sighed. Well, I'll make breakfast, said Ayano, who then stood up to make food. Hooray, Luffy shouted happily. Calm down, Luffy, shouted Ayano irritably. I will help you, Ayano, said Rainer. Thank you, Rainer. Ayano and Rainer then making food. Luffy looked very bored because he had to wait to eat. Akino looks amused by the bored attitude of Luffy. Are you often like this, Luffy-kun, asked Akino. Luffy was questioned by Akino. Luffy then saw Akino with a bored look. That's how it is, Luffy answered. Akino just laughed at Luffy, who seemed to be bored. So Akino, why are you here? Rias asked. I'm here because I want it, said Akino. Ha, Rias suddenly felt strange with an answer from Akino. What do you mean you come here because you want it? Rias asked. Does Butcho ban me here? Asked Akino back. No, I do not forbid you, replied Rias calmly. Then why do you look unhappy when I come here? Asked Akino. Because this house is full, said Rias. I think there are still more rooms, said Luffy innocently. Shut up, Luffy, said Rias. Luffy then paused to see Rias's angry face. Ayano then put all the food that was ready at the table. Time to eat, Luffy shouted. They then eat breakfast in the morning. Luffy quickly eats all the food. Occasionally Luffy tried to steal someone else's food there, but Ayano looked at Luffy with a warning look if he didn't take someone else's food. Skip time. Luffy and the others then headed to school. When breakfast, Luffy only ate the portion. Luffy looked moody because he wasn't full. Never mind, Luffy, you don't need to be depressed, said Ayano. Luffy then just nodded, understanding Ayano's words. Luffy then looked forward and realized that they finally arrived at school. All right, Luffy and I will go to class, said Rias. Ayano only nodded, understanding. She was a little annoyed with Rias because she looked very eager to be close to Luffy. Then see you, said Ayano, who then immediately left. Luffy was just confused to see Ayano suddenly feeling indifferent to him. Rias, who saw Ayano, just smiled. So all this time she's tsundere, thought Rias. Luffy and Rias then head to their class, but when they enter the school building, Luffy then sees someone familiar. The person has green hair, is quite tall, and wearing glasses. Luffy then knows who that person is. "Hey, isn't that Zoro?" Luffy said, looking at the person. Rias who saw the person who was said by Luffy, and sure enough was Zoro, who was now seen wearing Kao's school clothes. "Woi Zoro," Luffy called. Zoro then looked at Luffy and Rias then smiled. "Oh Luffy," Zoro replied. "What are you doing here, Zoro?" Luffy asked. "I am now attending school even though I don't know what school is," said Zoro. "Ha ha ha ha, I used to be like that," said Luffy. "So Zoro, why are you here?" Rias then asked Zoro. "I am here because of that woman. I am now attending school here," said Zoro. "It is true." Then there was the voice of a woman behind Zoro, as Sona was walking towards them. "Sona!" shouted Luffy. "I told him to go to school here," said Sona. "Hey listen, I only went to school because I wanted to meet with my stupid captain, and as the first member I have to look after him," said Zoro. "Yes, I understand," said Sona. "So that's how it is. It's good that Luffy can now meet your old friend often," said Rias. "Yes," Luffy replied happily. "So Sona, do you want to make Zoro your servant?" Rias asked. "Don't say anything like that," Zoro shouted. "I don't know, do you want to make Luffy your servant, Rias?" Sona asked back. "I'm not a servant to anyone," Luffy shouted angrily. Rias and Sona don't care about Luffy and Zoro's shout. It looks like Rias and Sona are whispering something. Luffy and Zoro feel uncomfortable seeing them. "We are not your servants," cried Luffy and Zoro. Break hour later. Rias and the others were already in the occult research room. Luffy was eating snacks with Kaneko. Asia was talking to Luffy and Kaneko. Akino was preparing tea for Issei, and Kiba and Rias were sitting in the usual place. "Listen everyone," Rias then asked the attention of everyone in the room. Everyone in the room then saw Rias. "I will introduce our new members in the occult research club," Rias said. Everyone was shocked to hear Rias. Then the door opened. Luffy and the others were surprised to see who opened the door. There appears to be a woman wearing a Kao school dress and a blue-haired girl with a little colored blonde. "Ha Zenov," Luffy then realized who that person was. Zenovia then feels annoyed to hear Luffy calling out her name. Zenovia then just sighs resignedly. "She will be our friend from now on," Rias said. All Rias' peerage were shocked to hear, they will now have new friends. "Are you a devil?" Luffy asked. Zenovia then took out the devil's wings to show everyone. "Yes, I'm a devil," said Zenovia. Luffy looks amazed at Zenovia's wings. Zenovia, who sees Luffy now amazed, just smiles. "What about Arena?" Issei asked. "She is now returning to the Central Church to tell us the information we got," said Zenovia. "Are you okay staying?" Issei asked again. "No, I really want to join you because last night," said Zenovia. "Good, now we have a lot of friends," Luffy said. All members of the occult research then rejoiced. Luffy was the person who made Rias's group look happy than before. Rias sees her peerages just smiling. Crack. The door once again opened suddenly. Rias and the others then saw who opened it. Zoro. Luffy then recognized the person. "So you're here, Luffy, I'm looking for you from before," said Zoro. Zoro then went inside with a relaxed style. Luffy then saw someone behind Zoro who seemed angry. Smack. Zoro's head then struck from behind. "What the hell are you doing? Don't go blasting through doors!" shouted Sona. "Shut up, girl with glasses," Zoro grumbled as he held the back of his smoky head because of Sona's punch. Rias and the others then just laughed at this incident. Rias then looked out the window with a smile. Finally everything was back to normal. In Olympus Elysium. Seen in a beautiful garden, there is a beautiful girl sitting on a seat in the garden. Aphrodite. Suddenly there was someone calling the seated woman. Aphrodite then saw who called her and knew who called her. "Oh Athena, what's wrong?" asked Aphrodite. "We will have another meeting," Athena replied. Aphrodite then sighed, feeling bored. She did not really like the meeting of the gods. Athena was confused to see Aphrodite looking unhappy. "What's wrong?" asked Athena. "You know the meeting is very boring, you have to hear someone talk and it will look boring," said Aphrodite. Athena then looked annoyed by the nature of Aphrodite, who suddenly looked bored. "But we have to do this is for Olympus," Athena said firmly. Aphrodite then saw the spirit of Athena, then smiled. "You always think about work, have you never thought of anything else?" Like love? Asked Aphrodite. Athena then looked uninterested in Aphrodite, saying, she never thought of love at all because she was always a busy person. No, I'm not interested in love, Athena replied. Oh yes, Aphrodite felt that Athena was too busy about her work compared to romance. Oh no, when I go into the world of humans I met interesting humans, said Aphrodite. Athena then looked interested in the words of Aphrodite. If that man had special power then he could become a hero for Olympus. He is a very attractive man, Aphrodite said. Athens then felt that this man would become a victim of Aphrodite. Aphrodite was a goddess who had many children. So do you want to make offspring with that man? Asked Athena. I think so, but he doesn't seem interested in my beauty, said Aphrodite sulkily. Athena then was shocked to hear that, where there was a man could reject Aphrodite's beauty, plus she was very sexy. What? That's impossible, Athena said in surprise. You may not believe it, but this is indeed the reality, said Aphrodite. Athena then began to be attracted to the man who was spoken by Aphrodite. Aphrodite and Athena had long enough to talk. Suddenly appeared Artemis. Athens, have you called the tempting goddess? Said Artemis. Artemis then saw her sister together with Aphrodite, who seemed to talk about something. What do you mean by the tempting goddess? Aphrodite asked with a smile. It's true, the fact is, you have many offspring from different races and you don't care about them at all, said Artemis irritably. What do you mean? I care about my children and descendants, said Aphrodite. Whatever, annoyed Artemis. Didn't care. We should have to leave now, said Artemis. Right, agreed Athena. Aphrodite then sighed resignedly, then stood up from the seat and prepared to leave. Okay, I'll go, said Aphrodite. Artemis and Athena then nodded understanding. The three of them then got ready to go to the meeting place. Chapter 30, Becoming Stronger. In school. Scene now. Luffy is walking in the Academy Cow Park. Luffy looks very happy because the day is starting to be peaceful again. Now he can sleep calmly and eat lots of food. It's nice, I was treated by Iono, Luffy said happily. Luffy then sat on a bench in the park. Luffy then saw his chest prick from Cockabeel a few days ago. He did not think that he would lose to Cockabeel. How could I lose? Luffy said with himself. Luffy remembered that night he should have been able to avoid the Spear of Light even though his body was badly injured, but he felt that his observation haki was very late warning him. Do I have to train my observation more? Luffy then remembered words from Rayleigh. Someone who can strengthen his observation haki so strongly that he will make his haki see the future at a glance. I remember that I once fought one of General Big Mom and I could see a bit of the future at the time, said Luffy. Luffy then smiled, thinking that he would get stronger. Okay, I'll be strong, Luffy shouted excitedly. What are you doing, Mugiwara-kun? Suddenly a voice was heard. Luffy then heard the origin came from his right. Luffy then looked right to see who was speaking. Oh Aka, what are you doing here? Luffy asked back. I'm walking around, you, asked Aka. Oh, I'm just sitting around, Luffy said with a smile. Then, may I sit too? Sure. Aka then sat near Luffy while looking at the scenery around them. Luffy was looking at a calm scene. He really wanted to meet Riaz and the others, but they were in class hours. Mugiwara-kun called Aka. Luffy then faced Aka, who called him. What's wrong, Aka? Luffy asked. Are you happy to go to school here? Asked Aka. Luffy thought for a moment with Luffy's question, then smiled. Of course I'm happy, here I have a lot of friends, Luffy said. Aka then smiled at Luffy's so innocent answer but waited meaningfully. So do you have someone you like? Aka suddenly asked Luffy about the person she liked. Luffy then thought for a moment to hear Aka's question again. Luffy thought hard enough because he liked his friends at this school. I like all my friends, Luffy said with a smile. Aka was then surprised by Luffy's answer that didn't seem to understand the purpose of the question. Luffy then hears a bell that indicates that the break time has begun. Yosh, I will meet the others, said Luffy, who stood up suddenly. Then I'll go first, Aka said Luffy, waving his hand towards Aka. Aka then replies Luffy with her hand too. Aka sees Luffy far enough away, thinking that Luffy is indeed an attractive child. Luffy is now walking towards his club. Luffy is walking very casually, seeing other students who are watching him. Why do they all pay attention to me? Luffy asked. Seeing all the students watching, Luffy didn't care about all of those gazes. He then continued to the club, but... Hey, pervert. Luffy then heard a shout from behind him. Luffy then looks back to see who is calling him. Oh Murayama, Katace, Luffy knew who called him. What's wrong, is there a problem? Luffy asked. Yes, there is a problem and the cause is you, Murayama said to Luffy. Luffy then confuses the words of Murayama who suddenly accuses him. Luffy then remembers that he didn't do a problem today but now he's accused of having a problem. The cause of the problem? Said Luffy pointing to himself. Yes, and I'm sure of that, Murayama said confidently. Luffy just stared at Katace in confusion. Luffy then saw Katace who had been silent without a word. Do you know what I've done? Luffy asked Katace. Katace was surprised when Luffy asked her. Murayama then looks embarrassed to see Luffy. Luffy was more confused with the Katace reaction being shy. What's the matter? Thought Luffy confused. Hey, are you listening to me? Murayama then played Luffy. Luffy was shocked when Murayama shouted at him. Luffy looked confused. I didn't do anything, Luffy said honestly. You think I believe in your words, Murayama said, who didn't seem to believe. Katace then felt sorry for Luffy for continuing to accuse Luffy, but Murayama thought that Luffy was the culprit. Come on Murayama, I'm not sure if Luffy is the culprit, Katace said. Murayama then was shocked to hear Katace suddenly support Luffy. Luffy then smiled at Katace for helping him. Why do you support him, Katace? Murayama shouted angrily. Katace then looks confused to explain. If she insists on supporting Luffy then Murayama will feel that she will like the Straw Hat Boy. No, that's not what I mean, I'm just. Why are you always bothering Luffy? Suddenly a voice was heard. Luffy and the two Kendo women then turned their gaze to a girl who had seen them. Oh Ayano called Luffy. Ayano then approached Luffy and the two Kendo girls. Murayama then looked annoyed to see Ayano. Luffy thinks they both have a bad relationship. Hey Ayano, really I did not. It's okay Luffy, I know that, cut Ayano. Murayama then looked at Ayano with a sharp look. Ayano just smiled at her but gave Murayama a sharp look. So can you explain, why do you always bother Luffy? Asked Ayano. Murayama then sighed. He made trouble again, said Murayama, pointing at Luffy. Luffy was seen now thinking about what he had done. Luffy still felt that he had done nothing. What's the problem? Ayano asked. About the missing panties of the girls in this school. Murayama said loudly. Did your panties disappear too? Luffy then asked Murayama. Murayama and Katace were surprised to hear Luffy's words, their faces both blushing. Yes, we both lost our underwear, said Murayama. Ayano was shocked to hear it and then calmed down. Then what is the relationship with Luffy? Asked Ayano. I'm sure that he stole all of the women's underwear in this school, Murayama said, accusing Luffy. Why can you be so sure? Asked Ayano still calmly. Because he is a friend of the perverted trio, Murayama said. Ayano then looked at Luffy. Luffy was now being seen by all female students with disgust and annoyance. Luffy just looks silent. So all of you are also sure that this stupid child is the perpetrator of the theft? Ayano asked all the female students there. The female students there still looked at Luffy with a terrible look and Luffy still didn't care about the looks. Ayano did not know how to help Luffy because Luffy's achievements in this school had been tarnished as a pervert. I am sure that he is not the perpetrator, said Ayano. All female students still don't believe Ayano's words, they still think that Luffy is the culprit. Hey, I told you that I'm not the culprit, said Luffy. If you're not the culprit, who else? Murayama asked. Luffy then thought for a while about this problem. Well then I'll prove that I'm not the perpetrator, said Luffy. All the students were shocked to hear Luffy. Murayama and Katace were shocked and didn't think that Luffy would still defend himself. Ayano looks smiling to see Luffy. Well, prove it tomorrow, Murayama said. Murayama and Katace left as well as the other students also seemed to have gone to their class. Ayano was surprised by Murayama and Katace who just left. You're sure you can prove that you're innocent, Luffy, said Ayano. I need Riaz's help and the others, I don't really understand this problem, said Luffy innocently. See you, Ayano, said Luffy running towards his club. Ayano saw Luffy run away just smiling because Luffy finally could be good friends. Ayano then looked up with a smile. Mother, you're right, said Ayano. Ayano then went to her class. Ayano was seen by some male students with a look of admiration at Ayano's beauty. It seems like I really have to have a boyfriend quickly, said Ayano, feeling annoyed with the men here. In the occult club. Riaz and the others were doing their activities at the club. Riaz was sitting casually, Kaneko was eating snacks, Akino was sitting near Kaneko, Asia was chatting with Kaneko and Akino. Kiba and Issei were drinking tea while talking to each other. Zenobia was looking at the window thinking about something. Why does the Straw Hat Boy take a long time? Zenobia asked suddenly. He is like that. You've lived with us for a few days, you should have understood Luffy's attitude, said Riaz. Zenobia nods in understanding. Zenobia doesn't understand at all with Luffy's attitude that can't be guessed. When they are relaxing, suddenly the door of their club is broken down. Friends, someone shouted while breaking the door. Everyone in the room was shocked. Kaneko looked wide open in shock. Akino looked really shocked. Riaz almost brought out her destructive magic. Zenobia took out her sword. Asia jumped in shock. Kiba and Issei then drenched their tea in the future because shocked so that their faces are exposed to each tea. Oh Luffy, you just surprised us, said Riaz. Luffy just smiled with a silly smile. Suddenly Luffy's head was hit by a glass. Hey, you almost make us die because of shock, shouted Issei and Zenobia simultaneously. Sorry, I'm sorry, Luffy said with a laugh. So Luffy, why are you looking hastily? Riaz asked. Oh yeah, I'm accused of stealing, Luffy said. All the people in the room looked confused. What do you mean by stealing? Asked Akino. Steal women's underwear, said Luffy. The whole room and then more surprised to hear Luffy. They will believe that Luffy stole food but stole underwear? Seriously? That's impossible, Riaz said. That's right, agreed Akino. If Issei Senpai did it, I believe, said Kaneko with her flat face. Why do you always bully me, Kaneko-chan? Issei asked sadly because he was considered a pervert in the eyes of Kaneko. It's your attitude, Issei Senpai, said Kaneko. Issei seemed even more frustrated. Others just felt surprised by Issei, who was suddenly sad. Riaz then looks at Luffy again. Then what did you say to them? Riaz asked. I told them that I was innocent. I would prove to them that I was innocent, said Luffy. Riaz and the others then nodded understanding. And I need your help, said Luffy. Riaz and the others then smile. Luffy, who now needs their help? Of course they will help Luffy. Well, Luffy, we will help you, said Riaz. Is it true? Thank you, Riaz, Luffy said happily. Riaz then just smiles to see Luffy thanking her. Riaz then stands up and heads towards the peerage, who are now preparing to take the order. Well, first we will find the scene, Riaz said. Scene? I'm sure the place is in the women's dressing room, said Akino. Then what will we do after finding the scene? Luffy asked. Yes, of course we will monitor the thief secretly, said Riaz. Luffy and Riaz peerage then nodded understanding. Riaz then looked out the window. Later that night we will monitor the whole school and we will surely find the thief, said Riaz. Oh, apparently you are a genius, Riaz said Luffy in amazement. Riaz feels that her face is flushed after being praised by Luffy. Others just feel that Luffy is too easily amazed by the intelligence of others who are smarter than him. Okay, the monitoring operation will begin, said Riaz. Yes, shouted Luffy and Riaz peerage except Zenobia and Kaneko. Skip time. All Chaos School students then went home because it was late afternoon, except for Riaz's club group, who seemed to be waiting for the students to go home. Zizi looks like Luffy is sleeping very well. Why can he sleep so soundly? Zenobia said, seeing Luffy asleep in the chair. Looks like Luffy slept in a chair with his hand as a pillow for his cheeks. Riaz, who saw Luffy, just smiled because she already knew the true nature of Luffy. Well, you are now watching, you already know your position, right, said Riaz. Yes, Butcho, but what about Luffy? Asked Issei. I'll wake him up, Riaz said. The others then understood. Akino looked suspicious of Butcho. Does she intend to be alone with Luffy? Riaz's peerage then went to do their work. After they left, Riaz then looked at Luffy, who seemed to be still asleep. Looks like you're really exhausted, Riaz said, seeing Luffy. Riaz then headed towards Luffy, then sat next to Luffy. Riaz then lifted Luffy's head slowly, then put it on her thigh. Now you're better, said Riaz. Riaz then strokes Luffy's head slowly. Riaz doesn't want Luffy to wake up because of this. You know why I fell in love with you? That's because you're different from all the men in the underworld, said Riaz, who was still stroking Luffy's hair slowly. The men there mostly only think about strength, wealth and nobility. They don't care about others at all, but you are different. You don't think about all that. You do what you want to protect your friends, even if you a little selfish, but I like your selfish attitude, said Riaz with a smile. I will introduce you to my family and surely my family likes you, said Riaz, who thought that her brother would be impatient to find out who Luffy was. Riaz keeps caressing Luffy's head for a long time. Riaz then brings her face closer to Luffy's face. Riaz tries to kiss Luffy but oh, we found the person. Quotation mark. There was someone talking with communication magic. Riaz then sighed in disappointment at not being able to kiss Luffy. Okay, we'll be there soon, said Riaz. Riaz then thinks to wake Luffy. Riaz then whispers something in Luffy's ear. Luffy then wakes up with a jumping style so that it disrupts Riaz. Where is the meat thief? Luffy shouted. Riaz just chuckles to see Luffy suddenly angry because she whispered that the meat had been stolen by someone. There's no one, Luffy, he's gone, Riaz said. Luffy then looked at Riaz. Really? Good, said Luffy, thinking that the meat would survive. What's important now is that we have to meet with the others. They've found the underwear thief, said Riaz. Nice. Come on, Riaz, said Luffy, immediately pulling Riaz's hand so Riaz didn't have time to run. Luffy pulled Riaz, not knowing that the pull was so strong that Riaz was seen flying in the air. Luffy slowly, said Riaz. Luffy and Riaz then head towards the scene. X. With Akino and the others. Pursue that person, Akino shouted. All the Riaz peerage then chased the thief who had been hiding in one of the women's changing places, but has been obeyed by Riaz peerage. Issei continued to chase the person very quickly, but that person seemed to have very much stamina. Damn, he is very fast, growled Issei. Kaneko then tried to ambush the person from the front, but Kaneko was shocked to see that person then was seen jumping up very quickly and high. The whole Riaz peerage was surprised to see it. What's the matter? Issei shouted. He's not an ordinary person, Kaneko said, seeing the person start to move away. Don't let him get away. We need to catch him. He made Luffy-kun's pride tainted in this school, said Akino, who looked angry. Riaz's other peerages were shocked to see Akino looking angry, then they smiled. You're right, we can't let them run away, said Kiba. Kiba then quickly pursued the person, followed by the other Riaz peerage. Kiba saw that person seemed to have unusual stamina, plus he had jumped very high. He's not an ordinary person, Kiba thought. The thief then jumped into the school building very high. Kiba was shocked to see it. The thief arrived at the school building but was shocked to see two people in front of him. On the left there was a boy wearing a straw hat, while on the right was a beautiful woman standing with a smile that looked arrogant. The thief seemed to be tempted by Riaz's body. So he is the thief? Okay, I'll beat him, said Luffy while preparing his fist. Be careful, Luffy, I feel that he's not a human, said Riaz. The thief then smiled at Riaz's words. Silence there, thief. The thief then was shocked to hear someone shouting behind him. Luke's Akino and the other Riaz peerages who fly using their devil wings. Arr, looks like the thief has been besieged, Akino sneered with his sadistic style. I know that you're not a human, Issei shouted. So you still don't know about that? You are really bad, Issei-senpai, sneered Kaneko. Issei then looked immediately moody at being ridiculed by Kaneko. Kiba then took out his sword, preparing to attack the thief. The others also seemed to have released their weapons. Sorry, Butcho, we were late, suddenly Asia sounded. Luffy and the others then saw Asia flying and carried by Zenovia. Zenovia then landed near Luffy and Riaz. Zenovia then drops Asia. It's okay, Asia, said Riaz. Luffy then looked at the thief with a sharp look. The thief felt goosebumps when he looked at Luffy. Return the panties to Murayama, Kates and the others, Luffy shouted very loudly. Riaz and the peerages were surprised to hear Luffy shout. Luffy looked angry. Riaz didn't think that Luffy would be this mad, even though this is just a theft that can be said to be mild. Why are you so angry, Luffy-san? Asia asked. Because he has stolen a woman's valuables, Luffy shouted. Riaz and the peerages then sweat and hear Luffy's words. Riaz looks surprised by Luffy's words. What do you mean, Luffy? Riaz asked. Ayano said that underwear is a valuable item for women, said Luffy. Riaz and the others added sweat drop to Luffy, plus the thief also seemed to be sweat drop. I think Ayano is right, Riaz said. Actually, what has Ayano taught Luffy, thought Riaz. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly the thief then laughed like he was laughing at something. Hey, why are you laughing? Luffy asked. I laughed because you will die soon, said the thief. The thief then suddenly turned into a horrible form. Unlike the previous one in the form of a human, now he was shaped like a giant and had tentacles. Ria's peerage, including herself, was shocked to see it. Luffy just stopped seeing the creature who seemed to be attacking them. "I'll kill a man but I won't kill a woman," said the creature. Kaneko then feels annoyed at the words of the creature. Kaneko then jumps to attack the creature. "Basic pervert," said Kaneko while kicking the creature. "What do you mean by not killing a woman? Are you favoritism?" Issei asked irritably. Kiba just smiled to see this while Luffy just stopped not feeling lust against the creature. Kaneko managed to kick the creature until the creature was thrown forward very quickly. "Great Kaneko-chan," Issei shouted. Luffy then ran forward very quickly to attack the creature, but Luffy then looked at the tentacle and then seemed to attack him, but Luffy managed to avoid all the tentacle attacks. Luffy then gets ready to attack the creature. "Gomu Gomu no pistol," shouted Luffy, hitting the creature very strongly. The creature was then thrown back very quickly, but the creature's tentacles then headed towards the women who had just seen. "Watch out," Luffy shouted. But it's too late because the tentacles then catch the women except Rias and Akino, who managed to avoid. Asia, Zenovia and Kaneko seen caught by the tentacles. "Damn, caught me off guard," said Zenovia, who was actually preparing to attack the creature. Kaneko is seen rebelling, and Asia is seen trying to escape. Rias then didn't stay silent. Rias then released her destructive power to attack the creature, but the beast then dodged it. "Damn, it turns out to be agile too," said Rias. The creature then tried to attack Rias, but the creature then felt like it was struck by lightning. "Phew phew phew phew, don't be too hopeful," said Akino with her sadistic laughter. Luffy and Kiba then did not stay silent. Kiba then took out his sword and slashed the tentacles. The girls who were caught and then thrown and fell down. Luffy then did not stay silent. "Gomu Gomu no bazooka." Luffy then hit the center of the creature very hard. "Now it's my turn," Issei shouted. Issei then hits the creature again with a very powerful punch. The creature then adds backwards, not to mention Luffy then jumps up to the creature to attack him. "Gomu Gomu no Ono," shouted Luffy, kicking the creature from top to bottom. The creature was then pressed down very strongly and pinched down. Luffy then went down smoothly. "Yosh, we managed to defeat it. Hey, are you okay?" asked Issei, who then looked back to see Kaneko, Asia and Zenovia, but Issei's eyes then opened wide looking at them, as their clothes were crushed by the liquid from the creature, making their body parts visible. "Kaya," Asia shouted shyly. Luffy, who saw them, just paused and then laughed at them. Kiba was surprised by Luffy, who just laughed at the naked woman. "Ha ha ha ha, look at your clothes," Luffy said, pointing to the three of them. Issei was then hit by Kaneko so hard that he was unconscious. Luffy laughed even more at this. "It turns out you're sexy too," Asia Ria said. Asia, and then more embarrassed to hear the words from Butcho. "Zenovia looks calm." "Butcho, look at your clothes too," said Zenovia. Rias then looks at her clothes and she is shocked to see that her clothes are also broken and show her body. Rias then sees Akino, who also has the same fate. Our clothes were destroyed, Butcho, due to the creature's liquid," Akino said with a smile. "Hey, are you not ashamed at all?" Kiba asked, looking in the other direction. "Why, if only Luffy is okay," said Akino. Rias agrees with Akino. Rias then sees Luffy, who seems to see that creature seems to be spewing out something. "Be careful, he will spit out something," Rias said. They all then retreated a few steps to avoid the vomit. But the vomit was not what they expected. It turned out that the vomit of the creature was a collection of panties of girls' hair. Luffy and the others were shocked to see it. "So he ate all of the girls' underwear here," Akino said, realizing. "The base of a perverted monster," said Kaneko with her flat face. The monster was then seen rising to escape. Rias and the others then would not allow this, but the monster was so fast that Luffy and the others could not attack the creature. "It's Shiryu." 36-pound cannon, suddenly came the voice that Luffy knew. The creature then slashed into disrepair. Rias and the others then were shocked to see the creature, which was then destroyed. "What was that? Is that an octopus?" Then there was the voice of someone known by Luffy and the others. "Zoro." Luffy then looked up and saw Zoro, who seemed to be cleaning his sword, which had been smeared by the liquid. "Oh Luffy, what are you doing here?" asked Zoro. "I was hunting a panty thief in this school," Luffy said innocently. "Thief of underwear, really strange," said Zoro. "Yes, that's how it is." "Oh, why are you here?" Luffy asked Zoro. "Earlier this afternoon I fell asleep under a tree in the park. When I woke up it was already night," said Zoro, who fell asleep. It turns out it's not just Luffy who is a sleeper at this school. thought Riaz in the peerage. Riaz doesn't think Luffy will have a twin and sleep. Riaz then remembers something. Is Sona not looking for you? She must be confused now, said Riaz. Oh, the despicable woman, she must be sleeping in her house, said Zoro. In Underworld. Does his stupidity know no bounds? Sona looked angry. Near Sona, the peerages seemed to be as upset as Sona. Sona looked very angry. The fool is always making trouble, Riaz said irritably. Indeed, it is like his nature, basic Mirimo, said Momo. Back to school. Well then, said Riaz. They then talked to each other. Zoro was surprised to see lots of underwear around them. Riaz then explained everything to Zoro. Zoro then only nodded understanding. Riaz then looked at Luffy, who seemed to be looking for something. What are you looking for, Luffy? Riaz asked. I finally found it, shouted Luffy, finding something. Riaz is just confused by what Luffy finds but then feels unconcerned. We'd better go home, said Riaz. You're right, Luffy answered. Luffy then looked at Zoro. You'd better stay at Ayano's house, Zoro said Luffy. All right, answered Zoro. Riaz and the others just smiled. At school. Luffy and the others then arrived at school. It was quite difficult to convince Ayano that Zoro was Luffy's first pirate friend. And then Ayano then accepted because he had heard the story from Zoro himself. Luffy then looks for someone. The gossip about Luffy stealing underwear then disappears because Riaz automatically tells the culprit even though he doesn't explain that the thief is a monster. Riaz gave a photograph as proof of what she had obtained from the peerage when the thief was stealing at the women's changing place, and then all the students then believed even though there were few students still hating Luffy. Where are they? Luffy asked, looking for someone. Luffy kept on looking for the person he was looking for. The students there saw Luffy with ordinary eyes and felt guilty enough for accusing Luffy. That's them. Luffy then ran towards the two people in front of him who were talking to each other. Hey, Murayama, Katase, Luffy shouted. Murayama and Katase were shocked because someone called them. They then saw who had called them and they were surprised because the one who called them was Luffy. Finally I found you, Luffy said happily. What do you want? Murayama said, facing her face aside. Murayama, you can't be like that, said Katase. Murayama then looks guilty. Luffy is confused with them. Ano Luffy, we want to say something to you, said Katase. Luffy then looks curious about what they will say. Forgive us for accusing you, Murayama and Katase shouted together. Luffy was surprised to see them both apologizing simultaneously. Luffy then smiled broadly. Shishi, it's fine. Murayama and Katase then looked happy because Luffy has forgiven them. They didn't think that Luffy would be so nice to them. They feel guilty because they are always mean to Luffy. Oh yeah, I have something for you, said Luffy, who then took out something. Murayama and Katase were shocked to hear that. They suspected that Luffy would give a present. Here it is, Luffy shouted something. It turns out Luffy pulled out two underwear. On the left are pink panties while the pants next to it are white with a white ribbon. Murayama and Katase were startled by the two underwear, and then their faces then flushed very brightly. I found it from the thief. I'm sure this has you, Luffy said innocently because he had seen their underwear. Luffy thinks they will be happy because they have found their important objects. Katase and Murayama then take their underwear and then. Idiot, shouted Murayama and Katase simultaneously while hitting Luffy simultaneously. Luffy then crashed back and fell very hard on the ground. All students were surprised to see Luffy hit. Luffy then looked unconscious. Murayama and Katase then left Luffy. But Murayama and Katase were seen smiling while holding their panties. Thank you, they said slowly so that they were not heard. Ria saw the incident from the top of her club building and then smiled. I think they have strong hockey, Ria said. X. In a place not known? Seeing that the meeting of the gods had begun, there were several gods already in the room, but it seemed they could start the meeting. Hey, why don't we just start the discussion right away, said Zeus, looking at Michael. Wait a minute, we are still waiting for someone, said Michael. The gods then seemed to understand and began to be patient, but they were curious to see who was coming. Outside the meeting room, there was a goddess who didn't seem to enter because she wasn't too interested in the discussion. That was Aphrodite. Why should I join in this meeting, said Aphrodite. Aphrodite was sitting in front of the door of the meeting. Then a goddess also appeared who seemed to have just arrived. I'm late, said the goddess. Aphrodite then saw who the goddess was and then smiled knowing who the goddess was. "Oh, it looks like the beauty goddess from Nordic mythology is late," said Aphrodite in a mocking tone. Freya then looks at Aphrodite with an irritated look. "They are goddess of beauty. The difference is that Aphrodite is a goddess who likes to tease men but not Freya, who seems not to be interested in men because she already has a husband." "Tch, I don't need a word from goddess like you," said Freya irritably. Aphrodite was seen smiling to see Freya's face irritated at being ridiculed by herself. "Never mind, you should sit here," suggested Aphrodite. Freya then sat near Aphrodite with a face that was still upset. "Thank you," said Freya. They were then seen sitting with no word. Then a goddess appeared again. "I'm late," said the goddess. Freya and Aphrodite then saw the goddess and recognized her. "Oh, Amaterasu," Freya said, seeing Amaterasu. "Freya-san, are you too late?" Amaterasu asked. "Yes, that's how it is," answered Freya. Amaterasu then was relieved that not only was she late, Freya then gave space in the chair to sit. Amaterasu happily. The two of them then sat down while talking to each other. They looked familiar even though they were different in mythology. Then there were several people who then walked to the meeting room. The three goddesses then thought that they would enter the meeting room. Seeing there were some people with white hair, Aphrodite was curious to see them. "Who are they?" asked Aphrodite, who was upset because they just entered without paying attention to the three of them. "They are the angels of a family who came from heaven," said Freya explained. "Noble family from heaven." Amaterasu then was surprised to have never heard of it. "Right, the Aveline's family," Freya said. The three goddesses saw them. There was a woman there who was very beautiful. The three goddesses were then shocked by the beauty of the woman. "Who is he?" asked Aphrodite. "She is the third granddaughter of the Aveline's head," said Freya. "She's beautiful," said Amaterasu. "Yes, but don't just be amazed by her beauty. I heard she is a woman who has extraordinary powers of war. She defeated all the demons in the world of elves," said Freya. "The elf world?" Amaterasu was shocked. At that time the world of elves was attacked by a swarm of demons who suddenly attack. The elves were shocked because they did not think that they would be attacked by demons. Even though their world was very peaceful, I heard all the demons in the world appeared in the world of elf. There were 100,000, said Freya. Aphrodite and Amaterasu continue to hear Freya, who continues to tell very exciting stories. "It's really unfortunate they are," said Amaterasu. "But the women from the Aveline's family then came to the world of elves and managed to defeat all demons there easily," said Freya. "I never thought that there were angels who were very great," said Aphrodite. "Yes, I am too, and I hear that she is 300 years old," Freya added. Aphrodite and Amaterasu then were shocked to hear that. That was quite a lot of age. "I wonder what is being talked about by the gods and goddesses in this meeting," Freya said. "Yes, me too," said Amaterasu. "Same, Aphrodite." The three goddesses then hoped that the world would be fine. Continued. End of chapter 30. Please make sure to support the author and click my Temu link in the description.